Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Redding, the Chief Technology Officer of Quantropi, and I'm excited to join you today to talk a little about securing networks from quantum threats. And here at Quantropi, we really believe that in order to defend yourself, you have to know your enemy. So let's get started. First and foremost, as we think about the threat, we have to think about the classes of quantum computing. And I'm sure if you're here at the conference, you've heard a lot about this, but always just as a reference, we like to talk about two classes of quantum compute. First is the universal or logic gate quantum computers being developed by the likes of IBM, Google, Honeywell. And for them, with their universal architecture, we've already started to see papers published like Shor's algorithm and Grover's algorithm that theoretically posit that these computers can directly attack today's security standards. And so that's what we're worried about. But it's not the only quantum threat. We're starting to see that some of the other class of quantum architecture, like quantum annealers from D-Wave up here in Canada, are also being applied to crypto breaking. So for example, last summer when the NIST announced the different algorithms for candidates as post-quantum cryptography, and one of those approaches was the shortest vector problem, already we're seeing papers being published where D-Wave style quantum annealer could potentially break those algorithms. And so those are the threats we know of today, and no doubt in the labs and research universities around the world, there are more to come. So what to do about that? Right now, we see really two fundamental approaches when it comes to quantum safe key distribution. The first, categorized under post-quantum cryptography, is all about replacing classic algorithms with new ones, right? And these are generally, as a class, predicated on complex math puzzles. But the challenge is, as we saw with shortest vector problem, quantum may solve them too, because they're big, they're complicated, they're not well understood, and there may be gaps or weak points that have yet to be discovered or soon to be discovered. Also, because of the complexity of translating this mathematics into algorithms and into code, results in some cases very high computational costs, which makes them inappropriate for any number of use cases, including things like IoT. The other school of thought is doing it at the photonic level, doing the actual quantum properties of light, right? QKD, quantum key distribution, using the photons to carry the information. But the problem is the hardware is exotic and new, and in some cases never even developed. And also it's very expensive, not necessarily scalable, limited key rates, constrained distances. In fact, NSA said, don't use it. So what to do? Well, let's go one step deeper on the threat itself, right? Knowing our enemy, right? Today's compute architectures are based on Boolean algebra, right? Ones and zeros, and the challenge is it's therefore number and information are binary strings, and we do bitwise operations. And that gives us a compute power of 2 to the n. The problem is quantum computers operate in quantum mechanics, which is really matrix mechanics, which can be represented as linear algebra. And the net result is that instead of being 2 to the n, it's 2 to the n squared when we think about the computational power. So you're bringing a knife, they're bringing a gun. You're bringing a tank, they're bringing an airplane, right? You're mismatched in your power profile, and as a result, they've got you over a barrel. So let's show you and go one deeper to say, well, okay, well, what do we do about it? How do we use quantum against quantum? And it comes back to, as we think about, Keyspace, we think about random numbers, we think about quantum security. When you're dealing with Boolean, right? It's an array, it's a vector. And as a result, you get 2 to the n. So if you have 8 bits, you have 256 possible numbers. So start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can count to 256 in about 10 to 20 seconds. That's how long it would take to guess the key. However, the moment you switch over to matrix math, you're working in 2 dimensions. Simple analogy, Boolean is the castle on a chessboard, goes in one direction. Quantum is the queen, can go in any direction, two-dimensional. As a result, much more power. In fact, same 8 bits, same space, it's now 2 to the n factorial. That's 256 factorial, which is 10 to the 507th power, 10 with 507 zeros after it. Start counting to 10 to the 507th. How much time is left in the universe? Not enough. That's the differential between Boolean and matrix. And the great news is that because matrices can be represented as linear algebra, we can now represent it algorithmically. And that leads to the breakthrough at Quantropi, which is quantum permutation matrices expressed as an algorithm in what we call quantum entropy expansion and propagation, or KEEP. You know, got to have an algorithm. Sorry, and also an acronym. Ooh, got to get the right A. And so we've got the KEEP algorithm implemented, linear algebra in code. And the best part is, because it's in code, we can run it on today's classical compute architectures and tomorrow's quantum architectures. We are insulated from the underlying tech, so whatever's available, we can use. And that is very powerful. And the best part is, because it's linear algebra, it's stuff you learned back in school. It's been studied, analyzed, tested, verified for hundreds of years. There are no hidden trap doors. There are no miracles to solving the problems that have never been discovered, because mathematicians have had hundreds of years to think about it. And because it's well understood, simple and elegant, the resulting code is simple and elegant and low power and low footprint. In fact, we've compiled it as low as 2.5 kbits. So think about embedding that in any device. It's entirely possible. And so we've taken this core technology of KEEP and packaged it up into a modern architecture, right? So introducing Keyspace, which is the world's first digital QKD platform. We start at the top, getting some really high quality quantum random numbers from our partners at Quintessence Labs. We call those random numbers quantum entropy. We bring that into our service, the entropy distribution service, or EDS. Think of it like a power plant, right? It is what's generating and sending out these quantum keys, as quantum entropy. We put it into, using KEEP, we encode it into a secure envelope, ship it over any network securely to our enterprise customers who are running our software, a key distribution service, or KDS, which receives that entropy. Now here's the fun part. We run it through our KEEP algorithm again and transform it, preserving the randomness that you want, but changing the underlying numbers. So even if we were silly enough to hold on to a copy of the original entropy and someone broke in and stole it, it would be useless, because we've transformed it. And so our clients have truly known only to them secret random numbers. From there, once again, they use the KEEP protocol to encapsulate and envelope the keys that they've now got, to distribute it to anyone that they want to, their customers, their endpoints, their end users, whatever applications need good quality random numbers, they get it quantum safe, end to end. So that's what we've packaged up into the platform. But to bring it to life, you always got to show a use case. And so we've kind of packaged up this concept car we call Cypher Space, where we get to an end user, quantum safe and secure a key that they use to generate a one-time pad. And we all know that when you have one-time pad with an XOR operation on plain text, you end up with ciphertext that is perfectly secure. And as a result, you now have a perfectly secure document that is quantum safe. It can be cracked now or stolen now and cracked never. You can publish it and sit it in Times Square, and no one will ever be able to open it up unless you give them the key. And so that's just one of any number of uses of quantum encryption. And so that's our core product set. But as we and everyone else in the industry think about it, we've got to look back at those challenges and say, are we solving them? And first, with PostQuantum Cryptography, we're not doing complex math. We're doing simple and elegant linear algebra. And because it's simple and elegant, low cost, low energy, high efficiency. Same time, we're not limited to the physical implementation. We can run on any network, photonic, physical, wireless, don't care. Works with all existing internet hardware, right? And the hardware to come. And last but not least, we're limited only by the bandwidth of the internet itself, right? There is no constraint on distance. The internet goes everywhere. So can our keys. So can our architecture. And no limitations, right? So that's how we see the problems in the industry and we solve them. But the next big mountain to climb, the elephant in the room, I like to say, that everyone in this industry still struggles with, which is sharing secrets. Because once you have a shared secret, we can initiate these quantum safe tunnels and everything is awesome. But it's that bugaboo of that initial sharing that still relies in most solutions on a classic approach, right? Out of band communications, you name it. And the net result is it's still vulnerable to future quantum attacks. What are we going to do about it? Great news. We've got the IP and we're bringing it forward into the market, solutions that actually solve this once and for all in a quantum safe manner. And we actually have two classes of solution. One that is hardware based for those of you that really want to work at the infrastructure layer, as well as those that want to go full digital across all types of networks. So let's talk about that for a moment. When we talk about optical, we like to talk about what we're calling Quantum Public Key Envelope, or QPKE. And in this case, we're using coherent light. We are using Glauber states as a way to modulate it, and we're keeping those phase modulations as our secret. And this pushes all the uncertainty to the attacker, not to the participants. And what's powerful about this is it uses nothing but off-the-shelf existing hardware. If you have an optical network, you have the gear. You don't need to buy anything new or add anything new. You just got to configure it. So how does this work? Alice has a phase modulator. She gets a good quantum random number from our friends at Quintessence. She uses that to encode and create a secure envelope. She sends that in a single trip over to Bob. Bob doesn't need to open it. All he needs to do is use his own phase modulator to encode his key into the secure envelope, sends it back to Alice. She demodulates it, and she's got a key, Bob's key. So now they have a shared secret, one round trip, one channel, all the uncertainty pushed to any Eve style attacker, high bit rates, high throughput. In fact, we've been working with McGill University and Mitex to analyze this, and using industry standard simulation, we're getting at the industry standard 50 kilometers, 100 gigabit key rates compared to 1 megabit. Out to 700 kilometers in the simulations, 56 gigabits. Everyone else, nothing, right? Even if we're off by a factor of 10, we're a factor of 1,000 better than what state of the art is right now. And the exciting news is McGill University and Quantropi are building this out in a physical demonstration lab even as we speak. So stay tuned, and we'll be able to show this to you live and back up these optimizations and these simulations with real world proof and data. So very exciting. But the application space for today's modern networks goes beyond just the physical infrastructure layer. And we got to think about doing things, digital networks, all networks. And this is our latest breakthrough, right? What we call Galois Public Key. And this is based on mathematics, again, 200 years old. And it's polynomials. I learned polynomials in high school, right? And you know that with polynomials, you can have the coefficients, but if you don't have the constant, you can never solve the problem. Think about those math problems you tried to solve. You didn't have the constant, you had no solution. Public key, private key. So once again, Alice publishes her coefficients, creates that secure envelope, sends it over the line to Bob. Bob uses his constant term as a secret, puts that into the envelope, sends it back to Alice. She unlocks it, has Bob's key. Same principles, shared secret, one round trip. Eve has all the uncertainty, gives us NP complete security with complexity at a very high rate. So as a result, we will now solve this over no matter what your physical transport layer is. So you've got choices depending on your particular implementation. And so as we start to summarize the Quantropi product suite as it stands today, we've got Keyspace coming out with our permutation gates and our quantum algorithms working over today's digital networks with digital KQD to distribute key material in a quantum safe manner. And again, only speed limitations in how fast we can generate the random numbers and how fast is the internet. Coming commercially launched next quarter. GPK and QPKE, you can see now we're solving the asymmetric challenges of public key encryption, and we will exchange those over digital or optical networks. Again, digitally only limited by the network. And with QPKE, right now, you're seeing what we've seen in simulation. We'll soon have the hardware data to back it up. And those will be coming out in the months ahead. So with that, here at Quantropi, we are aware of the looming quantum threat that's on the horizon, but by understanding at a fundamental level the physics and the mathematics and the matrix expression of quantum computing, we are prepared to respond for quantum with quantum and to provide the solutions to you today, to anyone today that's interested. And so with those looming quantum threats, here at Quantropi, we say, bring it on. Thanks for your time and attention, and enjoy the rest of the conference.